Hi, this is Bob from Hobby Concepts, and today I'm going to build this blast from the past. This is a Tamiya 1850L Mercedes-Benz box truck. Now this kit isn't available anymore, so I'm not doing a step-by-step build on this. I'm not going to show every little individual part. I will kind of go through do a flyover of the chassis construction. But what I really want to show is some of the things that go through my brain when I'm working on these trucks and why I do some certain things. I'm going to add some detail to the cab. I'm going to use a Bayer SFR1 sound and light system, which is spectacular, along with a new radio from FlySky. But mainly I want to just show kind of the painting, decaling, and some of the maybe extra things I've done on this truck that you might think, oh, I can do that on my truck, or I can do something similar, maybe a little different. So, not a step-by-step video. I think you'll like it. I think there'll be some ideas in here you can use, so let's find out. Let's get started. So here is a blast from the past. This is the Tamiya Mercedes 1850L. This kit has been discontinued, but I always liked this truck. It's just a lot. And you can still find them if you hunt eBay or something like that, although they probably won't be cheap. But anyway, we're going to build this truck, and I'm going to use a Bayer sound system and lighting system and do all kinds of trick stuff. So even though you might not build this specific truck, I think a lot of the things I'm going to show, like dash lighting, cab lighting, flashing lights, special effects, will apply, especially if you are interested in using the Bayer system. So here we go. Let's get this thing built. As I get started on this kit, I've laid out the parts, the body parts particularly, and that's typically my MO. Is I'll get these organized and primered and painted while I'm building the rest of the kit. There's quite a few body parts. Some of them aren't used, though. One thing Tamiya does on the instructions for this is the parts that are not used are highlighted in blue. So, for example, those two panels don't need to be painted. And in this older kit, they give you painting tips in the back. So what I've decided to do is this is going to be painted as a Coca-Cola truck. It's going to be red. The body side panels will also have to be painted. And these are metal. And they're unlike the trailers, these have a white finish on them already, so they're basically ready to paint, which is good. The corner and edge pieces are also white. They're painted, which is better because paint will stick. Now, I've been looking at European Coca-Cola trucks just to get some painting ideas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the truck and the box red, and I'm going to paint the trim pieces around the box in black. And that gives the truck maybe a little more modern look. And then we'll do the interior in probably two-tone gray. I'll do a little console for it. So I'm going to go ahead and punch these out and start painting them. I have loads of Tamiya TS39 mica red. And I think that'll be a really sharp look. So I'm going to go ahead, punch these out, start painting them, and build the transmission and the rear ends. You can see I've already sorted all my nuts and screws and everything into a couple of muffin tins. So we'll get going on this. I'm not going to go into the chassis building step by step with this. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to concentrate on the extra detailing I'm doing. And then I'll do a separate video on the sound and lights. But this is the complete chassis. Neat little truck. I just love building these. It's a shame they discontinued it. Has a real interesting rear suspension with the center shocks, and the front end is exactly the same as all the other Euro trucks with the side-mounted steering. So now it has a underbody battery tray and a few underbody pieces to mount. So I'll go ahead and get those put on. I started painting. This is the mica red. I painted the interior also, since I figured that Coke trucks would be red inside, and the cap. It's going to look really nice. The color came out beautiful. Here's the grill with a red stripe on the bottom and painted in Tamiya semi-flat black. So the painting is going really well. I've got some of the box panels painted, and I'll talk about those when I do the decaling and the detailing. So I'm going to go ahead and finish working on this chassis. I'll show you a picture of that when it's on the wheels and kind of done, and then we'll get on to the special stuff. So this Mercedes 1850L kit is really old. It was actually the third semi-truck kit that Tamiya produced. They did the King Hauler, the Globe Liner, and they did this. And it's just not up to the standards of their newest kits. Still nice, but a lot of weird little details. Like, for example, the lenses are molded in clear and they have you paint them. Whereas the new trucks, the lenses are molded in color. And then you have things like this side box that has holes in it because they had an electrical unit that actually had on-off switches on the truck because the radios wouldn't operate the lights. So I'm going to make a plastic piece to fill that in, and then I'm using this Tamiya clear paint to paint the lenses. And this is amber here. They have a red, they have orange, and let's see here, a little paint on this. These colors are really actually quite useful. You can paint them over silver to get some special effects, and a lot of times if I have like white LEDs and I need to color them, I'll just dip them in here and then let them dry, and there we go, there's amber. Couple of coats of this works really good, so useful in a pinch. They make red, amber, blue, green, and yellow. And the kind of handy things to have in your repertoire of paints. As I start to get into some of the custom things, so I've got this little speaker box I put together that's going to mount the speaker up on the side like this. There's a couple of rails that go down here. I'm going to paint this black so it'll blend right in. And I'll use some of this Minwax polyacrylic, a couple coats of that to seal up the wood, and then I'll paint it with the same Tamiya semi-flat black as everything else, and that really will be hidden well by the deck plate. You can see it's tucked way up underneath, side rails over it, you won't even see it. So boy, it's going to sound really good with that speaker out there. Just a few little detail bits. I've lighted up the dash and finished painting it. Typically I spray these with clear flat, which knocks down the shine on the decals, and I lighted this one. I have a whole separate video on dash lighting. The driver figure took a little surgery on the legs to make him fit, but he's going to fit in here like this. So I've got him glued together and surgically removed him at the shins. We'll get him put in there. And then the dash, or the front end, one thing I like about this truck is almost all the lighting is down underneath, so you don't have to run a lot of wiring through the body. Plus it's got a lot of really big lights in the front. The kit is the very, very early days of Tamiya, so it wasn't really designed for LEDs. I had to drill out these holes in the back to fit 3mm LEDs, and you can see I put an amber one inside each turn signal, and then I used high intensity LEDs which really focus the light forward and all the rest, so this thing is going to light up like a Christmas tree. So I'm going to go ahead and wire that. Since I'm using a Bayer SFR, they're positive grounded, so all the colored wires will go together, and then I'll batch the lights so that I can turn on each set of lights separately. So I'll do a little wiring, and then I'm going to make a headliner to fit up in the top here and put a couple of white dome lights in it. So I'll cut that out of a piece of plastic and kind of get that fitted in there. Coming along. I've got my my front clip all done, pulled the wiring together. Since it's a Bayer system and they're positive ground, all the positive wires are hooked together. And then what I do is just run them into a black wire, because my brain thinks that way, negative. And then my colored wires are here. I didn't even keep track of them, because what I do now is test them as I hook them up, and I'll show that later. Now it's time to do the rear lights. The rear lights only had two holes for LEDs, so I drilled a third one for the backup light, and of course painted the lens with the clear paint. So now I'll do the same thing I did with the front clip and mount my LEDs in here. I'll just glue them in, mount these on the brackets, mount them on the bumper, pull all the wiring together, and then I'll have an assembly to mount on the truck just like that. And I'll work on the same thing in here with the headliner. I made a paper template out of a piece of tag paper that just kind of fit in there good. Then I transferred it over to a piece of plastic styrene, and you can see I punched a couple holes for some LEDs. So that'll just fit in here like this, and I'll use some double stick Velcro to hold it in and run the light wires down a corner. So I've got it drilled for a couple of 3mm LEDs, and I'm going to use white ones because I want it to light up really good inside. And then you can see I finished up the rear bumper and lighting and wiring harness again. So both of these harnesses will run to the center tray on the truck, and the one from the truck, I'm actually going to have to run it down to the front corner because the cab tilts. So I want it to come out down here and then run back along the frame so that you can still tilt the cab without any wires getting in the way. So we'll go ahead and finish up. Then I've got, of course, my dash and the wiring for the dash. So that'll go together with the wiring for the LEDs and make a little loom that'll go to the center. And then I can do the final assembly of it. The cab is starting to get complete. I've got the exhaust on, the latch, the front hinge, and I've got the dash and interior in. You can see that I ran the wiring up to the front, so when it tilts it won't be stringing out the back. And then Tamiya suggests painting this black, but I used a piece of carbon fiber sticker. I got this huge roll of carbon fiber stick-on stuff that I use for all kinds of little miscellaneous things, and I like the looks of it better than just black, because when you add the grill here you can see through it. It just gives it a little bit of a pattern, which I think looks nice. So now I've got to add the grill, a couple stickers, the cap, and then I can put the body on. But before I do that, I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to add a back panel to the back here, and I'll show that. And then there's a lot of room between the seats here, and when you look down from the top you can see the motor, which I don't like. So I'm going to build a box that covers the motor and looks like a center console. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what that looks like, and I'll show you what the back panel looks like before I put the body on. One of the things about this kit, being an older Tamiya kit, it has some things that are not quite as nice as the newer kits. For example, the treads here are just a decal. On the newer kits, those would be a piece that glues in. And also, these fenders are designed, they tell you to glue this and glue it to the back of the body, which that's the only thing that holds the fender on, and I say no, I don't think so. So I'm going to use a 2mm screw. I drilled through it, and we'll put you can see I already did the other side, a washer and a nut on the back side. Holds it a lot more solid, plus you can take it apart if you ever need to. So that's just one little detail as I finish up the body. This is a fun little truck to build. I'm disappointed that Tamiya discontinued it. Anyway, I took some plastic cardstock and made a little box which will sit in here and cover the engine and give me a center console. And then I found a little Coca-Cola poster picture online and printed it out on a piece of photo paper, cut a sheet of plastic and painted it black for a frame, and I will glue that on here and then I will get some double sticky tape on the back and mount it inside the body on the back wall, something like that. I don't know how good you can see it in the video, but anyway, it'll have a nice Coke poster showing through the window that'll look awesome when it's lit up inside. I also painted up a little husky dog here for the passenger seat, and I started whipping out my driver figure. He'll have a red shirt. I'll finish painting him pretty soon here, and these will stick down with double sticky tape, and we'll get that interior done and get the body on. So all in all, I think that'll really clean up the interior and look super neat from the outside. The last thing I have to do before I mount the body is get this roof cap mounted, because it's got screws from the inside and it's got some nuts on the back. Before I mount it, I want to put some Coca-Cola lettering on it. So I had my daughter cut me some Coke lettering. I know you can't see it worth a darn, but we got the two sides for the trailer, back doors for the trailer, a couple for the front doors, and then this one goes up here. So she told me to just peel off this backing. There we go. Okay, I gotta be a little more careful here. Okay, so there's my Coca-Cola lettering. Now you can see it. And I have got to mount it up here on the roof cap. Just like that. Alright, that's going to look great. So now I can go ahead and mount this and then get the body mounted. One final little detail, I've got a case of Coke here, which I'm going to mount with double sticky tape on the top of the console, and that'll look really great looking in through the windshield. So it'll have the Coke poster up here, the driver, the little dog, and the case of Coke. So now I can go ahead and mount the body, and I'll also mount this rear bumper. I can't mount the front bumper grill until after the body's mounted. So we'll get those two mounted and pull the wiring up to the center here. So I've got the front bumper mounted, body mounted, and I've pulled all the wiring back into this center compartment. I had to drill a few holes in here to get the wiring through. I clipped the battery wires just for ease of installation to get everything run up through here, and then I'll just solder them together, and the main battery connector will go out through here. The way this truck works is this metal plate mounts here. Of course, all my wiring will come up through the middle, and my electronics will mount in here. So now it's time to start installing the chassis floor braces and the side pieces on this. You can see that my body tilts forward, and you can see my little center console, my case of Coke. Yeah, everything went together pretty nice. You can see the speaker down here. So now it's assemble this and get it mounted, and there's a couple side rails that come down here, and then I can do my my electronics wiring. So we'll go ahead and do that. We're starting to look like a truck now. I mounted this deck down the side rails are mounted to a metal bracket that's bolted onto the rail. And as you can see, I painted all the side rails black. So all my wiring now comes up through the center. And I know it looks a mess, but it's really not that complicated. I've got the light string from the back end, the light string from the front end, and the light string from the body, plus my two servos. So they'll all hook to a Bayer SFR1. Now I'm going to do a separate video on hooking up all the electronics that won't be included in this video. So if you want to see how I do all the wiring and the electronics, look for that next video that'll come out probably right after this one. You can see that I've got my box top, the frame assembled, again painted black, and that'll sit up here. There's posts that go on the corners and then the side panels drop in. Now the one thing that I do want to do is, this is the floor for the bed. Since I'm mounting electronics in here, I've got to punch out a hole so this will sit down flat, and then I've got a special project for the back end here. So I'm going to go ahead and make some cuts in this. The next time you look at this, though, the wiring will all be done. So and then we'll finish up the back and finish up the box, and that'll pretty much complete this truck. Well, I had some 1/8 inch light ply, so I whipped out a little carrier for the Coke cans, and they just drop in here like that. They won't slide around. This whole assembly will just mount in the trailer box. You'll be able to open the doors and get a couple of cans of Coke out. I can't imagine a better use for this little truck. And then that leaves this very available for electronics. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple coats of sealer on this, and then I'll paint it black so it'll kind of disappear into the bed. But I think that'll be a kind of a cool feature of this truck. Well, I finished that, put some primer on it. My Coke cans fit in there just fine. They don't wiggle around. You can see that I've got some double sticky tape here on the truck. So all I have to do is just stick this thing down, and that'll complete excuse me, that'll complete the inside of this truck. So this is a excellent fit in here. Doesn't really rattle around. Okay, there we go. And then when you look in, you won't be able to see the electronics, but still easy to access them. 4 screws and the top will lift off. So now I'm going to go ahead and finish the box bed, and we'll put some decals on. So here's my 2 side panels, my front panel, the back doors, the roof. I already put the frame on. The way these fit is they just latch into, they slide into a frame that we'll build on the side. So I'm going to go ahead and put the decals on this, and I'm actually going to show that operation. One thing I do when I paint these, they have 2 different sides. One side has a wide slot and then a bump, and the other side has a wide area and then a small slot. They're interchangeable as far as which way you can put them in, and I've selected to use the side that has the wide area and the small groove, which I find easier to put decals on. So I'm going to get my decal and we'll install that. As I mentioned earlier, my daughter cut these stickers for me on her Cricut, and she put a backing on for me, which holds everything together. And there's my sticker. And then I'll just lay this on here. Now I haven't done any measuring. I'm going to just kind of eyeball this. This grid is nice because it we're going to go right there. Okay, that looks pretty good. So there's my sticker. Now notice I have a little gap here, but that doesn't matter. The frame's going to cover it. And I'm not terribly worried about the first side. Now that we're lined up, we'll just match the second side. I use a thing called a little chiseler. It's Lilchizler. You can get these on Amazon, or probably a lot of places. But it's got a nice kind of a round edge, and what I do is just run it down each slot, and that tucks the decal into the slot, really sticks it in there, makes it look good. So I'm going to go ahead and run it back and forth down all the slots, and then I'll come back and we'll peel this backing off. Well, I've rubbed this all down, so now I'll just peel off this backing paper, and the way to do that is to pull it back on itself. And be pretty careful because sometimes you can lift these little points. That seems to be sticking down pretty well. And we'll just pull it backwards. And there we go. There's my truck side. So now I'll go ahead and I'll count down the number of grooves and match up the other side. And I'll have my two metal sides finished. On the rear doors, all I did is take my decal and cut it in half so I can space it around the door rim, and I will do the same thing and stick this down here. And notice I haven't put any of the hardware on. Put this thing on because the hardware will probably mount over the top of the decal in a few places. So I can kind of adjust this up and down to get the look I like. And let's see here, we'll go about right there. This of course is a lot easier to put on than the ones that have all the framing. And then I'll just hold these together when I put this on. So I have my Coca-Cola, probably even just tape them. There, and then I can put this one on so it lines up. I've got my alignment marks there, and we'll get our rear door decals on. There's my finished rear door. So now I've got a couple of small little Coca-Cola decals, and those will mount up here on the side of the body. Same procedure. Same procedure. We'll get those peeled off and stuck on the side of the body, and then that should do all my Coke livery. There's the back doors all decaled and ready to put on, and those just slide in here and mount over this little mount at the bottom. like that. The screw goes in, and then the top has these little mounts here, and it'll just drop on, and the truck will be done. Get it finished up here. And just like that, it's all done. It looks great. As I mentioned earlier, this wasn't a step-by-step video, but kind of more about some of my detailing and some of the crazy ideas I do. I'm going to clean off my bench. We'll put some power to this and kind of go through all the little operation and the lights. Well, there we go. The Tamiya Mercedes-Benz 1850L, done as a Coca-Cola delivery truck. I am thrilled with the way this came out. At the beginning of the video, I said this wasn't going to be a step-by-step build, but more of a, here's some of the way I do custom things, and I hope you enjoyed that. We did the little poster inside the cab, the case of Coke in there, the lighted dash, the driver, put the speaker down underneath and the electronics in the back, and just kind of little custom touches that you can come up with ideas for your own truck. And of course, we did our Coca-Cola can carrier back here, where it carries a couple cans of Coke. I think that was pretty slick. So we made it truly a delivery truck. And then of course the Bayer sound and lights are just spectacular. Just kind of go through those again real quick. So on my radio here, let's see if we can get it where you can see it. We've got the headlights, the fog lights, the daytime running lights. We of course have the cab lights. That's my dash lights, which also look really good. The cab looks great in there. Matter of fact, let me see if I can move the camera and get a shot of that. Alright, there's the cab, and we'll turn the cab lights on, and then you can see the poster on the back wall, you can see the case of Coke there, you can see the little dog, you can see the driver. Interior really looks nice. And then of course we have our engine start that has the light flicker effect. We have our horns. We've got the main horn and the Coke horn, and of course our turn signals, pretty straightforward. We've got hold this one over, got our emergency flashers, and holding that one over gave us our tail lights. So we've got our emergency flashers are on. Turn those off. And then we have our forward and then reverse. So all of our lighting effects. The nice thing about this SFR1 too is you get just this amazingly beautiful speed control with super low creepy speeds. I mean, look at that. And just really smooth. Probably one of the best speed controls I've ever seen as far as that really nice low end. So there we go. That's a Mercedes 1850L. You know, if you think about doing some custom stuff with your truck, it just makes it kind of fun to do those own little special touches that make your truck special. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to have a video just on installing the SFR1, Also, if you want to get into some of the more technical stuff, the hooking that up and the wiring and how it works with this radio. So I'll post the video on the truck build first, and then the SFR one video a couple days after. So be sure to look for that. Hey, give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate the thumbs up. They help with my YouTube rankings and get the word out to more people. Appreciate it if you subscribe. I really appreciate all my viewers and my customers that visit me at hobbyconcepts.net. The truck thing is really cool, and we're having a great time. So there you go. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.